Hello YouTube, it's Adam here again with another pizza adventure, although this time I'm not making pizza, I'm making focaccia. In the first video I made, which is the one right before this, I made pizza with a Poolish for the first time, and I decided that the Poolish looked like a lot to make with just pizza, so I cut the Poolish in half, I divided it in half, and then made pizza with some and left the Poolish for something else. So here we go. You can see me making the Poolish. If you would like to see exactly what I did for all of that, I have all that in the previous video. But the Poolish is the same, and then what I did was I decided to make focaccia. So I took the rest of the Poolish and then I started doing some other stuff here. So what I did to make the focaccia is I did 50 grams of water, or 50 milliliters, and then I added 10 grams of salt, stirred that up real nice to make sure it dissolved, and then I also weighed out 150 grams of flour. I mixed the salt water in with the Poolish, stirred that up nice to make sure it was blended well, and then I added the flour. Started mixing this together with a fork, and then as it incorporated, I used my hands. And as you remember from the last video, me working with dough is like watching 4-year-olds play soccer. So you get to watch me struggle through this a little bit, and me sort of facing, I wouldn't say a fear, just like maybe an annoyance of mine where things just get super sticky to my hands. So I'm blending in this dough, and then I start to knead it, and I'm kneading it for about 5 to 10 minutes. I don't quite remember, but you want the dough to incorporate and to be smooth. And then I covered it with my mixing bowl and let it rest for I think 20 minutes. After it rested, I formed it into a ball and put it in a glass bowl with olive oil. I put olive oil in the bowl, and then I spread olive oil over the dough ball as well, and let that sit in the fridge until dinner tomorrow night. So it's the next day now, and we are going to do a nice family dinner here with a bunch of stuff from our homestead, which is pretty fun. These are pork chops, which I'm seasoning with salt to dry brine them, and these pork chops are from our pigs that are now in freezer camp. So while we wait for the pork to dry brine and the dough to come up closer to room temperature, I'm going to start prepping the focaccia. Here I am chopping up some sun-dried tomatoes, which we have from our garden this past fall. Here's a look at our dough now. Look at all the olive oil. Looks super tasty. Can't wait to get this started. You'll notice also that I'm not using the countertop here. I am using like a marble slab, which Megan uses for like baking pies and stuff. But I'm using this marble slab because apparently the dough doesn't stick to it as much, which is great. So I'm putting down some olive oil here, and I'm pouring the dough out. Oh yeah. And then you're flattening this out. I'm flattening this out, and you kind of want to push all the air bubbles out too, which seems like that doesn't make very much sense, but this is just the beginning of the process. So I'm laying this out, sprinkling in the tomatoes, and then I'm folding it up. There, we have a nice pocket there, and here we're going to roll it back up into a ball, form it back into a ball, and we're going to put it back into our bowl that has a bunch of olive oil in it. We're going to cover it and let it rest for about 20 more minutes. Meanwhile, I'm getting the grill fired up to grill the pork chops. As you can see, there's snow on the ground here. It's still pretty cold, but in my opinion, as long as you have fuel and meat, it's always grilling season. And while the grill heats up, I am going to take my pan that I'm going to bake the focaccia in and add some olive oil We're using a lot of olive oil for focaccia, so if you don't like olive oil, I'm sorry, you probably just won't like focaccia very much. But I think it adds great texture and flavor, and it's going to add a little bit of crunch to the focaccia, because with all of the olive oil being used, it sort of fries the outside of the dough, which is a great texture when you bite into it. And once the pan is slathered in olive oil, we put the dough in. We're going to flatten it out again. And then once we have it flattened out, we are going to season it. So for this focaccia, I'm using thyme, which we harvested from our herb garden over the summer. And I'm doing some garlic powder, not from our garlic. I'm sorry, I apologize. We're cheating. It is not fully homegrown. And then I'm going to finish with some Malden salt. Now, if you haven't had Malden salt before, it is like really delicate salt crystals, and they're a really nice finishing salt. They're very, like I said, delicate. They're not crunchy. It's not like coarse kosher salt where it's like little pieces of salt. These are like flakes of salt. And so that's going to add some really nice texture and some nice flavor. Now I'm going to flatten it out just a little bit more here. Yes. And we are going to pour on, you guessed it, more olive oil. Love it, love it, love it. Look at that. Once this is done, we're going to cover it, and then we're going to let it rest for about 45 minutes. And while this is happening, you're going to want to preheat your oven to make sure your oven is nice and hot. And I preheated the oven to 425 degrees Fahrenheit. Alright, after it's rested, we're going to pop this in the oven for about 15 to 20 minutes. I kind of just checked it periodically after about 15 minutes to see, how the crust developed, and I pulled it out when I thought that the color on the outside looked good. While that's going on, Megan is making the rest of our dinner. You can see she's getting stuff ready here. I'm trying to clean up and put things away a little bit so our kitchen isn't as much of a disaster after dinner. I also try to snatch a smooch there too, which is fun. And after about 15 minutes, this is what we have. Looks really good to me. So I am pleased with that. Wow. You can really see you can still see the salt flakes and all the herbs on it and the tomato. And what a treat focaccia is when you bake it. It makes the whole house smell just incredible. You smell the herbs, you smell the olive oil, you smell that freshly baking bread. It is great. Yes, you have a nice layer of crust there on the outside, golden brown, and just really soft in the middle. Finally, everything is ready to go, and we get to sit down and have a family meal. And we're in a stage of life now where we have a lot of things going on in the evenings, but it's still really great to be able to sit down and enjoy a meal like this. I know everyone was looking forward to it. The focaccia was probably the favorite. The kiddos loved it.
That's good.
We just had a good time together. It was a nice hearty meal on a cold winter day. If you like what you see here, feel free to like and subscribe. Also, tune in soon for my next pizza video.